Hi, we're going to go over how to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers with a little bit of time spent on the idea that since this is a multiple choice test, you may decide that you want to convert your fractions into decimals and then analyze the answer choices to figure out which one's the correct answer. We'll try it both ways. I'm going to do what's listed here as problems 16 and 17 with you to see what kind of answers we can come up with, and you can choose which method you prefer for answering the problem. Let's take a look at the options for two possible options for adding these two fractions together. There's more possible. One is to get a common denominator, and I'll show you one possibility for how to get that common denominator. Then you can add the fractions together and simplify or reduce the fraction if necessary. The other approach, because it's a multiple choice test, you can convert the fractions to decimals, add those values together, and then compare your answer to the answer choices. First, we'll try just getting the common denominator and solving the problem that way. A quick way to getting the common denominator, it's not always going to be the lowest or least common denominator that you might have learned in school. You can multiply on the diagonals and multiply across the bottom, then add. So here's what we have. With 9/10 plus 1/15, we can make this into 9 times 15, these guys, plus 10 times 1, or I guess I'll do 1 times 10, cross, and then we're going to keep that over 10 times 15. So what do we get? 9 times 15. It's about 150, a little bit less. So it's got to be a 5 carry the 4, 1, 8. Okay, I'm having trouble today with too many things going on. Not sure my password. We have 9 times 15, 135. And 1 times 10, I don't need my calculator for that one. And 10 times 15, it's just going to be a 15 with 1 0 because there's 1 0 in the number 10. And that becomes 145 over 150. I can tell just looking at this that it can be simplified, and how much I can simplify it, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to have to just start. One ends with 5 and one ends with 0. So I'll just try dividing both by 5 and see where that gets me. 145 divided by 5 is equal to 29. And 150 divided by 5 is going to be 30. 29 over 30. Okay. So that is a way that you can, and so that's letter B, that you can do an addition. Let's try the second method. I'm still working with 9/10 plus 1/15. In this case, I'm going to convert them to decimals. 9 divided by 10 is equal to 0.9. And 1 divided by 15, I'll check that one in my calculator. It is equal to, let's keep three decimal places. So it's equal to 0.067. And then what do? I'm going to add those two together. 0.9 plus 0.067. And I'll clear it out, although I could just right now hit plus 0.9. 0.9 plus 0.067 is equal to 0.967. All right, well, let's think about this answer. What's it close to? Is it close to 1 or 1/2, 3/4, 1/4, 2/3, 1/3? What's it close to? It's close to 1. Right? Well, how do I have a fraction that's close to 1? Fractions with a top number that is slightly less than the bottom number. Could be correct. So it could be something like 5/6 or 7/8 or 29/30. Because if I come back and I look at these answer choices, 2 out of 5, well, 2.5 out of 5 is half. So that's not going to even be 0.5 for that one. That's not close to 0.967. 29 out of 30 probably is correct. 1 out of 15, that's nowhere near close to 1 or 0.967. And 29/5, well, that's going to be a mixed number. That's going to have a whole number, what, 5, and then a fraction with it 5 4/5 or 5.8. That's definitely not what we have going on here. So after turning it into decimals, I can just analyze the answer choice and see that 29 out of 30, I can confirm it with my calculator. 29 divided by 30 is equal to, well, look at that. That looks familiar, 0.967. Looks just like our other answer. So I know for sure letter B is correct. Either way works. To convince you, I'll do another set with you, okay? Okay, let's take a look at this one. If we wanted to use approach number 1 to get a common denominator, we could do the across multiplying, and so have 1 times 16 plus 5 times 20, and all of that over 20 times 16. So that would be 16 plus 100 all over 320. And then that would be 116 over 320. And at this point, I'm trying to think of what might go into both of them. This is the part I find time consuming. And granted, we could have gotten the least common denominator for those, and that can make this step easier. And what, if I divide it by 2, then I have 558 over 160. Nope, still not small enough. Another 2 would be 29 over 80. And what did I say earlier? 31, 37, 23, 29. 29 is prime. So, oh, and it matches letter D. So we're done at this point. And you have the answer. And that might be an approach that you like. The second approach would be to do them as decimals. 1 divided by 20. 1 divided by 20 is 0.05, and 5 divided by 16 is 0.3125. I add those together. .3625. And now I analyze this. So what's it close to? Well, it's somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2. In fact, it's kind of close to 0.33 or 1/3. So I'm going to look for a number where the top number is about 1/3 of the bottom number. Another way of thinking about that is the bottom number is about 3 times the top number. Okay, so what have we got? 9/80. 9 times 3 is 27. Yeah, 27 is nowhere close to 80. So A is gone. I don't like that. B, 3/40. Again, times 3, that's 9. 9 is definitely not equal to 40. So that's out. C, 3 out of 10. Okay, well, this we know is 0.3. So it's too small. Let's confirm, letter D, 29 divided by 80. Well, 29, that's approximately 30 times 3 is 90. So 90, we're getting close. We're close to 80. So even if I hadn't eliminated the other ones, I still probably would check this one out. And what would I do? I would not show you my password. And I would instead do 29 divided by 80. That number matches our number. This is a skill that you can develop. It is, once you've gotten kind of used to looking at the numbers, at the fractions and the decimals and comparing them to, if you have 0.25, you know that's going to be 1/4, where the top number gets multiplied by 4. It should be close to the bottom number. If you have the 0.3-ish, 0.3-ish, that's similar to 1/3. So see if when you multiply the top number by 3, is it close to the bottom number? If you have 0.5, well, obviously that's going to be close to 1/2. So see if when you multiply the top number times 2, is it close to the bottom number? 0.67 or 667. Then that's 2/3. That one's going to be a little harder to match up. 0.75 being 3/4. So if I have something like that, again, I might see if it's close to this relationship of 3/4. But these 3 are definitely some of my easiest ones. And then again, if it's close to the top number equaling the bottom number, then you're going to be close to 1, maybe something like 0.9, 0.8, something like that. You'll know your top number will be about the same as the bottom number. Let's do one more, just because I know the next one is sneaky. It's got 2 possible answers, and so we can use a little bit of logic to finish that one out. Let's take a look at this subtraction problem. If you do it where you actually solve it, and you may decide to do the cross multiplying to get the common denominator quickly, then what do we have? We've got 56 minus 100 divided by 160. 56 minus 100 is going to be negative 44 over 160. And that is an answer choice. But if I look at that, I see these are both even numbers. And in fact, I can tell 44, the numbers repeated twice, that must be 4 times 11. And 160, I can tell that that's going to be divisible by 4 as well. So if I divide them both by 4, I'll end up with negative 11 over 40. Letter B will be the correct answer. Second approach, you can convert these into decimals. In my mind, the line is the same as divided by, so that's why I keep screwing up. Okay, let's see what we've got here. 7 divided by 20 is equal to 0.35. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. And if I subtract 0.35 minus 0.625 is equal to negative 0.275. Okay, what's this close to? So this is close to negative 0.25 or negative 1/4. And as I was saying before, the top number times 4 will approximately equal the bottom number. This just gets me close. This helps me narrow down the answer choices. And then I can put them in my calculator and see which is correct. Keep looking at the wrong spot for my camera. 13 over 16 times 4, it's not going to work. So A is out. B, negative 11 over 40. Well, times 4 is 44. So this is a possible answer. In fact, at this point, I would do 11 divided by 40. And I would see that that's equal to 0.275. So I know that's the correct answer. And I can tell that 11 over 40 is not going to simplify any further. 11 is prime, and they both won't divide by the same number to simplify. Let's say I kept going just to double, I mean, that did double check it, but negative 1 over 96, this is nowhere close to 0.275. It'll be a really, really, really tiny number. With letter D, with the negative 44 over 160, yes, if I multiply times 4, it will be approximately close to 160, but they both can divide by 2 or more. In this case, they both can divide by 4, is what we figured out earlier. But I can tell at least they can both divide by 2 because they both end with even numbers. Pause for a second. I'm going to do one of the problems where we are adding mixed numbers. And there are many ways that I could show you how to do this. And where to begin? With this one, let me show you, I'll show you 2 different ways. Let's first just try doing it with the decimals, okay? So using our second approach, that 4 divided by 15 and 7 divided by 20, let's see what those equal. We've got, I'll do it to 3 decimal places, so 0.267. 7 divided by 20 is 0.35. That means that I'm going to do 2.267 plus 1.35. I'm putting together the fractions in decimal form and adding them to the whole numbers. This equals 2.267 plus 1.35. We've got 3.617. Okay. All four of our answer choices start with the number 3. That may or may not occur on the T's. So it could be that once we find the 3, if only one of them starts with the number 3, we're done. We can stop and double check that the fraction matches 0.617, but we're done. On each of these, I can take a quick look. 23. What would I multiply to get close to 60? Probably multiply by 3. I don't know. Let's just do it quickly. 23 divided by 60 is 0.38. So that's too small a difference. 37 divided by 60, 0.61666. Oh, that's going to be our answer. Let's double check. 11 divided by 60, 0.18, and 5 divided by 12, 0.416. So this is the same as 3 and 37 over 60. I will show you one of the methods that you can use for working with the mixed numbers. Another approach would be to add the whole numbers. So we'd have 2 plus 1 is 3. And I'm going to circle it. I'm going to save this for later. So I always circle numbers that I'm going to come back to later. With the 4 over 15 plus 7 over 20, you can get your common denominator and add them together. And whichever method you want to use for getting your common denominator, that works for me. I will say that 60 will probably be easier, but I can do it the long way. 4 times 20 plus 7 times 15 divided by 15 times 20. That's going to be 80 plus 7 times 15 is 5, carry the 3. So 105. And that will be divided by 150, 300. Okay, so we have 185 divided by 300. They can both definitely divide by 5. And we would be left with what, 337 over 60. Circle that. My answer will be 3 plus 37 over 60. The 3 whole number and this. And that, again, is the answer B. I know this was a nice shortcut because what I did not have to do was work with the improper fractions. That's another approach you could use where you turn this into what, 34 over 15 plus 27 over 20 and solve the problem that way. That's another way of doing it. This one I've always liked. It's a pretty good shortcut. What do you do if it was 3 and 65 over 60? So I have an improper fraction. Convert this to a proper fraction. It would end up being what, 1 and 5/60ths, which is the same as 1 and 1/12. So again, I would circle the 3 because I want to keep that. So now I've got 3 plus 1 and 1/12, and I'd have 4 and 1/12. If you get lucky, you won't have to convert an improper fraction into a mixed number and then add. But worst case scenario, that's what you have to do if you use the technique of just focusing on the fractions and keeping the whole number separate. Shown you several different methods to try out. You can work with whatever you like. I think in real life, I personally am more likely to work with numbers as decimals, just kind of approximating what they would be as decimals. And unless I needed to have exactly 3 and 37 over 60, I would know that my answer is going to be something like I don't know, 3.6. So about 3 2/3 ish, something around that would be my answer. So it's a way to approximate answers. Go ahead and give the other problems a try on these practice pages, and I've got the answers on there for you to compare with. And I hope you found this helpful. The next thing we'll do is with word problems that have fractions, I still strongly recommend that you go ahead and convert them into decimals and work with the numbers that way, solve the word problem, and then you can take a look at the answers, the answer choices, to see which one matches your answer. It will often be a much quicker way than trying to solve a word problem and keeping everything in fraction form. So we can try that after you've gotten to practice some more with converting the fractions into new answers that might have fractions in them.